Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and welcome to day 17 of the Cracklathon, where I am doing a crackle every day for a whole month. So, to start today's crackle, I want you to roll out a piece of white Polymer, or just white polymer clay, roll it onto your thickest setting, which is about 2mm thick for me. And just trim away any excess you might have. So today is quite exciting. We are going to be using Swellegant, and I'm going to be using brass and copper today. So I'm going to start with that copper. I just need to open that up. Okay, grab that copper, and I'm just going to get a bit onto my brush. Yeah. And I'm just going to paint it on. And I want a fairly thick coat, not too thick. And for this technique I find that you don't need to apply the prep to the surface of the polymer clay. There we are. I think I've got enough copper. So now I'm just going to clean that off because I don't want to contaminate my brass by putting copper in it. So just make sure that you give that brush a fairly decent clean before moving on. And now I don't have to rush with this. If the copper starts to dry, that's fine. And then we're going to dab some brass on. And this technique works with one colour of Swellegant as well. You do not have to use multiple colours. But I think it looks interesting when you use multiple colours. It's like using one colour of paint versus two. Okay, and then basically once you've finished, you don't have to do multiple coats, one is enough. So you don't use a ton of Swellegant for this. Yeah, once you've done one coat, leave it to dry, or you can use a hairdryer to get it to dry faster. I'm going to be using the lower setting of my heat gun, which is not going to cure the clay, but it will dry out the Swellegant pretty quickly. It does not need to be completely dry, it just needs to be dry enough that if you apply Kroma Crackle to it, it's not going to smear into the Kroma Crackle. So I'll just grab my heat gun. Again, remember you can use a hairdryer, and I'm just going to dry it. Okay, and this is just about dry. So now we're going to grab Kroma Crackle, and I'm going to put a fair amount on here. Okay. And then I'm going to spread it over the Swellegant. And now I have done a test for this before. This is not a new crackle to me. I've had a test sitting out for about 3 months now. So I know that there's no reaction. So don't worry about that. And I have baked it and everything, so some of you might be worrying whether this is completely compatible or if we're going to get any weird chemical reactions. We are going to get some chemical reactions, but they're not going to do any damage to the clay or anything strange like that. So don't worry about that. Okay, now I don't want a too thick layer everywhere, so I'm going to just scoop away some of that crackle. So I don't want it to take too long to dry, because it can take about 3 days to dry if you don't have a hairdryer or anything like that. Okay, so now we are going to grab our heat gun again, or a hairdryer, that will work as well. Lowest setting, and just start drying it. And continue to dry it until you start to see some cracks appearing. Switch off your hairdryer, leave it for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then repeat the process until you see cracks starting to appear again, and leave for 3 minutes again. And just repeat over and over and over again, and basically you will have this done in about an hour. Okay, and here is how it looks so far. The Kroma Crackle has to go completely white before it's completely dry, but before that it will become dry to the touch. So I just want to stop here, and I want to take a piece of plain printing paper and give this a burnish, because the Kroma Crackle will start to lift up a bit, so you can stop generally after it is dry to the touch and give it a good burnish, just so that it flattens it out so that it's not curling up anymore. And then I want to run this through on the thickest setting of my pasta machine, like so. And then I'm going to take it down one more setting and run it through again, and that will just stretch things out a little bit more. And then I will continue drying just after I've burnished it one more time. Okay, and we're just about done. Now, keep in mind, by using the heat gun, you've created a different crackle pattern than if you had just let it dry overnight, because the heat gun forces it to dry a lot quicker than it usually does, so you're going to end up with large crackles, and then you're going to end up with areas with very little Kroma Crackle on it, which I think creates a really beautiful, interesting effect. But keep in mind, you will get a completely different effect if you just let this dry overnight and the next day. So that is it for this tutorial. Also keep in mind you can use copper and brass paint in place of Swellegant. I think the Swellegant creates a better effect. I think it looks more like metal than paint, but if you don't have Swellegant, feel free to just use metallic paint in this technique. It will work as well. The only thing with the metallic paints though is it's not going to crackle quite as well as the Swellegant, because I just find that the Swellegant crackles much nicer than a lot of the metallic paint brands. So yeah, I definitely would recommend use Swellegant if you have it, but if you don't, metallic paint will work pretty well as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. If you would like to vote for your favourite crackle so that it has a tutorial, project tutorial of its own, please do consider joining my group Jessama Tutorials Polymer Clay Community on Facebook. I will have a link to that in the description below the video, and we will have a poll at the end of the month, so we can choose our favourite crackle, and then I will do a project on it. So do consider joining up there. And if you would like to support this channel, please do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon community. I have a link to that in the description below the video as well. You get exclusive tutorials that are for patrons only every single month, so please do consider joining up there. It helps keep this channel running. And as always, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.